Karen's voice sliced through the night like a dull blade, shrill and relentless, as she waved her flashlight like a scepter over my family's ranch. "This fence is an eyesore, and I will have it torn down by morning," she barked, her chins wobbling with every self-righteous syllable. The two HOA volunteers flanking her, Tim, a jittery accountant, and Marla, a mousy retiree, shifted uncomfortably, their eyes darting toward the darkness beyond the beam. They weren't here by choice. Karen's reign of terror had dragged them into this midnight crusade against my grandpa's land. The air was thick with the scent of sagebrush and impending chaos. And I knew, crouched behind the barn with my heart pounding, that tonight would end with someone's pride in tatters. It started 3 months ago when Karen, the self-appointed queen of the Sunny Hills Homeowners Association, decided our 50-acre ranch was her personal battlefield. Never mind that our property predated the HOA by a century, or that Grandpa had fought tooth and nail to keep it out of their clutches. Karen, with her garish pink tracksuit and a clipboard she wielded like a guillotine, had a vendetta. "Your land's an embarrassment to the community," she'd sneered at the last town meeting, ignoring the fact that our ranch wasn't even part of her jurisdiction. She hated our independence, our weathered barn, our refusal to bow. And tonight, she'd crossed a line, literally be trespassing onto our property under the guise of an HOA inspection. I'd been visiting Grandpa for the summer, a 22-year-old city kid learning the ropes of rural life. Grandpa was a man of few words, his face carved from years of sun and struggle, but his eyes held a fire that could outburn the stars. When Karen's SUV rolled up our dirt driveway at 11 p.m., lights off like she was pulling a heist, Grandpa didn't hesitate. He grabbed his old 12-gauge from the mantel, the one he hadn't touched since coyotes threatened the herd a decade ago, and stepped onto the porch. I followed, half terrified, half thrilled, knowing Karen had no idea what she'd just walked into. "You're on private property," Grandpa's voice boomed, low and steady, as he leveled the shotgun not at Karen, but just enough to make her freeze. The flashlight beam wobbled in her hand, betraying a crack in her bravado. Tim and Marla stumbled back, their faces pale as moonlight. "This is my land, bought with my father's blood and my own sweat. You got no right to be here, Karen, and you know it." Karen's lips curled into that smug, condescending smirk she wore like a badge. "Oh, please, old man," she scoffed, her voice dripping with disdain. "This dump is a blight on our community's aesthetic standards. I'm doing you a favor by cleaning it up." She took a step forward, as if her sheer audacity could bully Grandpa into submission. I wanted to scream, to tell her she was delusional, but Grandpa's hand on my shoulder kept me quiet. He didn't need my help to handle this. The tension was a living thing, coiling tighter with every word. Karen's volunteers looked ready to bolt, but she pressed on, oblivious to the storm she was stirring. "I've got signatures from the board," she lied, waving her clipboard like it was a court order. "This fence violates code. And those rusty tractors, they're coming down too." She pointed at the vintage John Deere that Grandpa's dad had driven, a relic of our family's history. That was her mistake, poking at Grandpa's legacy. "You're trespassing," Grandpa said again, his voice colder now, the shotgun steady as granite. "I got rights, Karen. Legal rights. This land ain't under your HOA, and I got the deeds to prove it. You take one more step, and I'll defend what's mine." His words weren't a threat. They were a promise, forged in the same grit that had kept this ranch alive through droughts, blizzards, and bank foreclosures. Karen laughed a harsh, grating sound that made the crickets go silent. You think you scare me? Old timer. I've dealt with bigger nuisances than you. She turned to Tim and Marla, snapping her fingers. Start taking photos. We'll need evidence for the fines. Tim fumbled with his phone, his hands shaking so badly he dropped it into the dirt. Marla just stood there, clutching her jacket, whispering, Karen, maybe we should go. I couldn't stay hidden anymore. I stepped out from behind the barn, my boots crunching on the gravel. You're out of line. Karen, I said, my voice louder than I'd expected. This isn't your property. You can't just barge in here and start throwing your weight around. My pulse raced, but Grandpa's nod gave me courage. Karen's eyes narrowed, sizing me up like I was another obstacle to steamroll. Oh, look, the city brat's got a mouth. She mocked, her jowls quivering as she pointed the flashlight at me. You think you're tough? Kid, this is HOA business, and you're way out of your depth. She took another step toward the fence, her confidence blinding her to the line she was crossing. That's when it happened. Grandpa fired a warning shot into the air, the blast echoing across the valley like thunder. Karen shrieked, dropping her clipboard as she stumbled backward into Tim, who yelped like a kicked puppy. Marla screamed and ducked behind the SUV. The flashlight rolled into the dirt, its beams spinning wildly across the ground. Next one won't be in the air, Grandpa said, calm as a winter morning. Get off my land. Now. Karen's face twisted with rage, but for the first time, I saw fear flicker in her eyes. She wasn't used to losing. She scrambled to her feet, dusting off her tracksuit like it could salvage her dignity. This isn't over, she spat, grabbing her clipboard. I'll have the sheriff out here by morning, and you'll regret this. You backwoods hick. She stormed toward the SUV, dragging Tim and Marla with her. The engine roared to life, and they peeled out, leaving a cloud of dust and a trail of her empty threats. But the story didn't end there. Karen, true to her word, called the sheriff, but she hadn't counted on Grandpa's preparation. He'd kept every document, deeds, surveys, even a letter from the county exempting our ranch from HOA oversight. When Sheriff Daniels arrived at dawn, he took one look at the paperwork and laughed. Karen, you're lucky this man didn't press charges for trespassing, he said, tipping his hat to Grandpa. You've got no claim here. Stay off his land. The news spread like wildfire through Sunny Hills. Karen's reign of terror was unraveling. Neighbors who'd lived in fear of her fines and snide remarks started talking back. At the next HOA meeting, Tim and Marla quit, citing Karen's abusive leadership. A petition to oust her as president gained traction, and within weeks, she was voted out, her clipboard confiscated, her power stripped. She'd overplayed her hand, and the community she'd bullied turned on her. I watched it all unfold from Grandpa's porch, sipping coffee as the sun rose over the ranch. He didn't glow, didn't need to. Folks like her, he said, leaning back in his rocking chair. They think they can control everything. But you can't bully a man's home, his history. Not when he's got the law and a shotgun on his side. I smiled, knowing Karen's downfall wasn't just about us. It was about every underdog she'd trampled, every voice she'd silenced. Karen moved away a month later, her pink tracksuit a fading memory. The ranch stood untouched, its fence weathered but proud, its tractors gleaming in the morning light. We'd won, not just for ourselves, but for anyone who'd ever faced a bully and refused to back down. The land was ours, And so was the victory.